What is going on, WWPN world? It is your boy, the Prodigal One, JayB, here for yet another edition of SMARKTALK, episode 6 at that. And tonight, I have to be a little biased and say two of my favorite WWPN podcasters, analysts, whatever you want to call them. First, host of the Next Level podcast, co-host of Lucha Underground, co-host of Red Zone, co-host of God knows what else, the babyface assassin, the Andrew Bello. How you doing tonight, bro?
I'm excellent, man. And yeah, so like you said, Next Level, For the Love of Lucha and Red Zone, we have all the wonderful shows. Like I said, I usually am on the preview shows. JayB, you and I, those are pretty much the only times that we get to meet up and chat about wrestling. So happy to be on SMARKTALK. And quick plug, find me on Twitter at WWPN Bello.
There you go. Never too early to whore. And and also with us is someone that you might have seen or heard too much. However, he is a very, very important part of the team. Colin, or also known as the Rasslin Redneck, co-host of CageTown. Colin, how you doing tonight, bro?
Today it's the Rasslin Redneck. Now that's just the character I play. Everyone, my name is Colin. How's everybody doing today?
I know. Firstly, at least for me, when I first saw him and he dropped the accent, I'm like, wait a minute, you don't really talk like that, because I was under the impression that's how he normally talked. So it was a shock for me, as I'm sure it's probably a shock for anyone out there who thought it was not a gimmick and that was really him. But yes, it is a gimmick. At any rate, we're gonna go ahead and dive right into this episode of SMARKTALK. A lot of great topics to talk about, and I'm really happy that I have both of you guys here, because I know you guys are very analytical when it comes to the product and when it comes to pro wrestling. So should be a fun talk. Let's get started with the first topic. So the topic is, can the WWE ever reproduce another Stone Cold Steve Austin or another Hulk Hogan or even John Cena, meaning that actual face, that actual number one, that actual ace for the WWE? Is this something that can be done, or are those days long gone? Bello, I'm going to come to you first on this one. What are your thoughts regarding this?
Well, I'd like to just start by saying just the guys like the Stone Cold Steve Austins, the Hulk Hogans, the John Cenas of the world, these guys weren't really produced. They were ultimately shaped and packaged by WWE, but these guys, their personalities really are what won them over at the end of the day. They always say it's their personality turned up to 11, and the same can be said with guys like The Rock and like Macho Man and like Roddy Piper. These guys are transcendent stars, and they're really that's what they need. And those guys aren't made; they're born. Like, look at what we have right now. We have Roman Reigns, who's clearly the guy that they're trying to push and make one of these guys. Whether you love him, you hate him, you're indifferent to him, you cannot deny that they've just been really blatant with their push of him. And at the end of the day, that's going to rub some people the wrong way. Also, I don't think he has that crossover appeal. Like, I think they have guys on this roster and women on this roster that have the ability to be stars above and beyond WWE. Dean Ambrose, like, bullshitting with Jimmy Fallon on late night talk shows. Finn Balor and Calvin Klein commercials. Sasha Banks in music videos. Whatever the case may be, you got the ability to spread these people out and let them be themselves turned up to 11. And until they start letting guys do that and then start being way more astute about which one of them has the ability to be the megastar, they're never going to have another one. But I think, ultimately somebody will come along that they just can't fuck up, and we'll get one.
Yeah, you make really good points there. I never really thought about the crossover aspect of it, but you're absolutely right. If someone is able to cross over, and you gave some great points there, some great examples, if someone is to cross over, that'll make them even that much more of a possibility of becoming a megastar versus the guys like they have now. Now, can Roman Reigns be a crossover star, a megastar? He has the looks for it, possibly, yes, but based on what we've seen regarding his charisma and entertainment factor as far as promo skills goes, I'd say no. But I'm going to go ahead and go over to Colin. What are your thoughts on, first, the question regarding if they would ever be another Hogan / Cena / Austin? And also, if you can go ahead and make some comments regarding what Bello said as well.
I honestly think there could be another Rock, Cena, Hogan, Stone Cold type character, but does the WWE really want that? Because think about what's happened every time they've had that kind of superstar. That person's gone off, or in Hogan's case, gotten too big for the company, and his ego and everything. He felt like he was bigger than the WWE, bigger than the product, bigger than wrestling in general. Guys like John Cena now, he's starting to kind of do things in that crossover aspect. So the WWE might not want guys that are going to just get up and leave. They might not want to have someone that's like that, which is why they might be holding back guys like Dean Ambrose and Sasha Banks. These guys, like an AJ Styles, guys that have crossover appeal with things outside of wrestling that can do the Finn Balor and the Calvin Klein commercials. I think that might be their biggest thing, is why you're not seeing a lot of those guys getting pushed, is they don't want to lose that.
Yeah, and for me, you basically, I no one could see this, but off camera, I was nodding. And the reason why is because that was basically what I was going to say. Colin basically took it right out of my mouth. Absolutely. Based on what's happened in the past, I don't think Vince or even Triple H, when it becomes his time to run the ship, is going to ever create that just one star anymore. I think they'll create multiple stars, nobody to that mega star level, to the point where they'll still do movies and stuff like that. Like Miz is doing movies, Randy Orton's doing movies. I mean, hell, anybody's doing movies at this point. Freaking Bo Dallas was in a movie, but not to that megastar, the megastar label. Only because look at what's happened in the past. The guys they blow up and they move on. They get popular and then they move on. Obviously, it's when they get mega popular, it brings eyes to the product. But at any rate, I don't see them. I don't see it happening. I don't think they want to, only because it's just not worth it. At least that's my take on it. Did anybody else have anything else to say regarding this particular topic? Is there a chance that we do see it? And if we do see it, who would be the one guy that is most probable to be that megastar? Colin, I'll go and ask you that one first. Who is the most probable of the current roster?
Well, let me say and Bello's point is a good point as well. Those guys did grasp the brass ring, as Vince would say themselves. So the WWE not necessarily can quell these guys. I mean, if Sasha Banks were to just go out and just blow the fuck up and just go crazy, there's nothing the WWE can do about that. And if she were to do that herself and start to kind of look into other things, that's how they can make themselves a superstar that can cross over with the WWE. And again, that would answer your question right there. Sasha Banks is easily somebody that could be their next superstar. She's got the connections with Snoop Dogg. So she's already in the music industry, in the rap industry there. That's one crossover appeal. She's beautiful. She could easily be a model. She could do some of these extra things that not necessarily go the Playboy route. And that's not an option anymore for these girls. Like it was back in the day with Sable and Trish and a lot of these girls that did those things. But there's other ways for her to get across, and there's other ways for her to sell herself outside of the WWE to become a super mainstream name, like a household name that everybody knows, like a Ric Flair. You walk into somebody's house, you say Ric Flair, they know who Ric Flair is. I mean, there's no way getting around that. I mean, those guys made a name for themselves and are who they are because of what they did, not for what someone did for them.
Yeah, that's a good point, but I have to be honest, I tend to disagree in a certain aspect, only because there have been guys who have gotten over on their own. Zack Ryder just immediately pops into my head, where they've gotten over on their own, but WWE have actually went out of their way to not give these guys the push that they probably deserve based on their fan base. Yeah, Zack Ryder did win singles titles, and he's had small runs, but nothing ever to match the type of popularity that he had. But Bello, I'm going to go ahead and shoot the original question back over to you. Is there anyone capable of possibly getting that megastar spot?
Yeah, I'm biased to some degree on this one. I wrote a lengthy article about it on our website, but Finn Balor is absolutely, for me, the guy that they should be pushing. Like I said, Calvin Klein ads and have him on late night talk shows, have him on The fucking Bachelor. Like Finn Balor could be anywhere and everywhere you want him to be. And just when you get everyone to love him, you have him turn heel on everybody, and the Bullet Club thing starts up, and that's going to get over to a degree. He's John Wayne tough and James Dean cool, or whatever the fuck Corey Graves says every week on Monday Night Raw. I just think He's he's one of those guys. And Dean Ambrose too. He's just got one of these infectious Roddy Piper kind of modern day chilled out version kind of personalities that would mesh really well with guys on like late night talk shows and on stupid shows like At Midnight on Comedy Central. And you can let him just go out and just be Dean Ambrose, because at the end of the day, that's just Jonathan Good turned up to 11 or maybe even 12 on some occasions. So I think that Finn Balor in particular, but the three that I mentioned, Sasha, Finn, and Dean, are the big three that I think if they just let them loose, they could be way bigger and making them a whole lot more money.
I think a point that I made in the chat was Dean Ambrose, the Jon Moxley character. I mean, he could easily be, if the WWE went with a more adult-oriented format, you bring in that crazy, sick Jon Moxley character, let him have a few bloody, extreme rules-type matches where he can break out the baseball bat with the barbed wire. People would love that type of shit. I mean, people love the Stone Cold stuff because he was so real. I mean, you walk up into any trailer park and you're going to catch a guy that's got a 316 shirt. He's going to have some rattlesnake with the belt. You're just going to find that in a trailer park. That's an everyday thing in the trailer park. But, you got to get that Trump fan base. That's what Stone Cold had, that Trump fan base. And that's what sold all that merchandise for Stone Cold. And you got to find something in one of these guys that's going to just get people invigorated and want to buy merchandise and see somebody kick somebody's ass on television every freaking Sunday and Monday. Because I know that's why I was watching the pay-per-views and watching Monday Night Raw back in the mid-90s, because Stone Cold's going to come out and spray somebody with a beer truck, and he's going to stun like 17 motherfuckers in the ring. I mean, it's just the greatest thing ever.
I agree with what you guys say, and those three names that you guys have collectively come up with, Dean Ambrose, Sasha Banks, Finn Balor, those are absolutely, I could see it in all three of those performers. Mostly probably with Sasha Banks, only because her, Snoop Dogg is already in the rap industry. In addition to that, she appeals to both men and female. I mean, female, it's someone for them to look up to, if you want to call it that, and men for obvious reasons. She's talented in the ring, and obviously she's nice to look at. So yeah, I mean, we'll have to see in the future what they end up doing with that. But yeah. Moving forward to the next topic, we go from talking to megastars to talking to someone that is absolutely not even close, at least in my eyes, to being a star anymore. And I have to say, Bayley, since coming on to the main roster, she has lost all the steam that she had in NXT, and also at the beginning when she came to the main roster. So I want to go to Colin first on this one. Why do you think she's lost? First of all, do you think she's lost all her steam, or am I not looking at this the right way? And if you do agree that she's lost all her steam, why is that? Why did she lose it?
I think she has lost a lot of steam. I just think it's kind of how they're booking her. I don't know if the WWE was really 100% behind Bayley in the first place. NXT was all Triple H, but Vince is all about how a woman looks a lot of times, and Bayley's not necessarily the most beautiful woman on the roster. And also, like, her wrestling, her in-ring talent, she's very limited in what she can do compared to some of what the other ladies can do. And yeah, she might look good in the ring, and she might be a great technician, but you also have to think how much of that is on the other person that's in the ring with her. I mean, she's working a lot with Sasha Banks. She's working a lot with Charlotte. She's working a lot with Becky. So I mean, those guys are, all three of those women are great technicians in the ring, and can easily make any of us look like we could have a 5-star match with them. I mean, if we just were to get in the ring with them. So I think they have gone cold on her, just because it's not taken off with the way they wanted things to go with her. Because in NXT she was kind of packaged like a female John Cena. Am I pretty much correct in assuming that? And up here on the main roster, she's just falling flat with the crowd.
Yeah, that's actually a perfect analogy. I mean, I even said it as well. She was like the female John Cena. Now, in regards to what you said, you're absolutely correct. She's had a lot of great dance partners, so that's why her matches have been the way they have. But on the same token, I can't remember seeing a lengthy Bayley match that she didn't at least botch one time. And her promos haven't always been excellent either. I feel like it's a totally different Bayley from NXT to here. Again, I may be looking into this a lot. But I'm gonna go to our NXT expert himself, Bello. Tell me, are we missing something here? Am I over exaggerating what's going on with Bayley?
Well, as far as Bayley's in-ring work, before I get into my spiel with the Bayley problem, as I'm going to refer to it, I think her in-ring work is phenomenal. Like, let's make no mistake about it. She's still one half of the greatest women's wrestling match that ever occurred ever at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 1. Like, that match transcended female wrestling to the point to where it was just like, oh shit, we're gonna have to keep an eye on these girls because they're outperforming the men in some respect, and they absolutely stole the show on that particular night. But I like Bayley's in-ring work. I don't think that's the problem. The Bayley problem is something that's going to sort of affect a lot of people and has affected a lot of people that are coming up from NXT, and that she had this incredible story and she had this rise and this fall and this triumph, and then she fell again and she battled back and went out like, you know, like a champ or whatever the case may be. And they waste a lot of that stuff in NXT to the point to where when it gets to the main roster, if they don't do it all over again, it loses its luster. So the casual audience, the 90% of the Raw viewers that don't watch NXT, now they are just being introduced to this character sort of midstream, where if Bayley came in as the fangirl that wasn't a great wrestler and built her way all the way back up to where she was at NXT before she left, then people would really buy into her. And think of all the acts that they've done that with: The Ascension, Tyler Breeze, Bayley, obviously, Ty Dillinger, American Alpha, Emma twice now, maybe 3 times even. Apollo Crews and Nia Jax are people that stayed down there, that came up too early, and people like Balor and Nakamura stayed down there too long. It's a problem that they're, you know, let's face it, this whole developmental system is still relatively new. They're working out the kinks, and this is something that, unfortunately for Bayley, she's sort of been a guinea pig in the worst possible way.
Now, Bello, you may, again, great points again, but that brings up the age-old question, the question that a lot of people bring up a lot of times. Now, if this was back in the day, everyone knows I love talking about back in the day. We were not getting so much wrestling. So Bayley's entire storyline from the beginning of NXT to the point of her winning the title, for example, if this was back in the day, that might have been like a 2-year storyline played out. But because there's so much wrestling, it kind of gets fast forward because they have to fill content. So do you think that is hurting anything at the moment because of the market being so saturated, there being so much wrestling? I mean, you have Raw, they're doing a lot of house shows, they're doing pay-per-views. What do you think? Every month versus back in the day, it was just 4 a year.
I do think they're spreading themselves a little thin. And that, like, if they focused as much on Raw and SmackDown as they did on the detail and effort and magnitude that they apply to the Cruiserweight Classic or this upcoming women's tournament or the UK Championship or NXT in general, like takeovers and all that shit, it's just off the charts amazing compared to what we're seeing on Monday and Tuesday. I think that is an issue for them. Yeah, I think that they probably need to maybe rein it back in a little bit. I don't think it's so much saturation from my perspective, because I can always use more wrestling, as they've, in this respect to Bayley, they've created like a parallel universe that only 10 to 15% of one universe knows about the other one. And now it's like, how do I feel about Bayley? Should I feel like she's this empowered woman that has discovered herself and like all that shit that it was when she got to the tail end of her NXT career? Or do I look at her like the dumb fangirl that is just happy to be there? Because they're kind of doing both, and I don't know how to feel about it. And I'm a huge fan of Bayley's.
Yeah, I think we all are to a certain extent. I mean, when Bayley first came in, I was all for her, but week by week, it's dwindling because of what we're seeing from it. It's just dwindling into the point where I probably don't even care anymore. But Colin, what can they do to lift back up Bayley to get her into those heights that she had when she first came onto the main roster, or even going back to NXT? What can they do to get her back? It could be a simple thing. It could be a big thing. What do you think?
Well, I think a lot of the topics that you've kind of given us to think about for this whole entire show, I think the overall theme of it could be more vignettes, more work by the WWE to do outside of the box things. Like you mentioned, Zack Ryder, you know, they need to grasp a lot of the social media stuff. They didn't like, he made his name off of doing the YouTube stuff, But what did we like? Again, you like referring to back in the day. What was so great about the Attitude Era and the stuff that they did back in the day? What's one of your favorite Stone Cold vignettes? When he Brian Pillman and him have the gun. I mean, these little shoot videos that they did back in the day. You've got the Boiler Room promo that Mick Foley cut. You've got I'm trying to think of some other really famous vignettes that they've done. You've got all the Goldust stuff that Goldust did. There's one that I think of that's on the tip of my tongue. I mean, even the Triple H when the Triple H and Kane feud, when Triple H had sex in the coffin and sorry. I mean, just repackaging and shooting videos like that. We're going down a dark hole right now, guys. Sorry. Just doing things like that. And even one of the topics that we're gonna probably talk about further on down the road is bringing in guys from the indies. You know, like they're bringing in guys that people don't even know anything about. You know, cutting little vignettes. Like when they brought Mike Bennett and Maria Kanellis, they just appeared. Money in the Bank. If you weren't watching WWE when Maria Kanellis came along, or you weren't watching TNA, you wouldn't know who any of those people were. I mean, they just came out. Who are these people talking about the power of love? I think that's what Bayley needs to be able to come back. Is she needs some vignettes. They need to put a little bit of the machine behind her. Let her things like crowd interaction stuff. Let her go be among the people. Let her like kind of how Corey Graves was doing some of the interviews and things. Let her be the host of some of the shows. Let Bayley try to show some of her personality through cutting some of the vignettes and videos that they used to do from the Attitude Era.
Absolutely. So yeah, we are going to get into a little bit of the indies a little bit later on the show, but it's time for our Book It segment. And in the Book It segment, for anyone who hasn't seen Smart Talk, I'm going to give both these guys an opportunity to book a certain topic. So the topic I came up with, it's geared more towards people who follow the NXT or know of Kenta, who's now known as Hideo Itami. And what it is Hideo Itami, as we've seen, hasn't reached at least what I feel to be his potential in NXT. Whether it's the booking, whether it's him being injured, whether it's just he hasn't performed to his standards. So my question to you guys is, how can you guys book Hideo Itami to rise up and eventually make his way on the main roster? How would you book him? I'm going to go to Bello first on this one.
All right. Well, I am the WWPN's King Booker, so I got a lot to lay down here, so bear with me. But I think Hideo is actually sort of on the upswing. He's in the midst of a heel turn right now in NXT, and he once he officially turns heel, he can just be callous and unforgiving and just downright just mean, and his offense is just devastating. So with him going out there and just kicking faces in the face, people are going to feel really bad for them. So that's something that I think they can work with moving forward, hitting multiple GTSs on guys. And he doesn't even necessarily need to have a program for the NXT title again, although if he does come and be like the first challenger for babyface Roddy Strong on the other end of this, if Roddy Strong should take the title from Bobby Roode as is going on right now, it looks like that's going to be the feud moving forward into Brooklyn. If Roddy Strong loses the belt to Hideo on the other side of it, that could draw some really good heat and be a really, really hard-hitting match. As far as the booking for Hideo moving forward, I got 4 quick options. I'm going to run through them quickly. 1,